because we want to have it later to show. So I think you have to accept this. So we are delighted to present these two world-renowned scientific personalities. Carlos Moreno, he is associate professor and the scientific director of the chair of entrepreneurship, territory, and innovation of Sorbonne University. And he is the author of the concept creator and the author of the 15-minute city concept. And he also authored the book, La Révolution de la Proximité, or de la Proximidad, La Révolution de la Proximidad. This is the book, I think you can see here, a recent book where he explains how this revolution of proximity can be developed. We are also thrilled to host Ezio Manzini, which he is an honorary professor at the Polytechnic of Milano and the president of DESI's network. As you know, DESI's is a very renowned network regarding the design for sustainability. And he also is the author of the Livable Proximity. You can also see the book, a recent book from 2021. So we will invite both speakers to start with a small presentation of 10 minutes each to launch the debate. And we have asked them to develop two questions: how to look to the value and potential of proximity, as well as the challenges and strategies for its implementation. And we ask also them to look with some interesting and inspiring outcomes, and eventually to share examples from cities they know or have been working with. So, Carlos and Ezio, it's a really pleasure to host you. Carlos, I will give you the floor for the next 10 minutes, and then Ezio, I will ask you to do the same.
Thank you, my dear friend, Jose Carlos Mota. Greetings from Paris. A real pleasure to share this floor with Ezio Manzini. I was a great admirer of his work. I will share with you some pictures for optimizing these 10 minutes, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that we have my screen. Just in a short time, the question today is discussing on this revolution of proximities. The 15-minute city concept is today very popular around the world. However, this is most important today to understand the origin of this concept and to deep in this concept. What are the essential principles and at the same time the different implementations around the world. I said in my different to the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, because even if I have started my research in 2010, for the first time I evoked this concept in 2016. In reality, in February 2020, when the mayor of Paris has embraced this concept for her electoral campaign, and after the COVID-19, with the mayor of Milano, Giuseppe Sala, Ezio himself published Abitare la Prossimità. This is so important for understanding the importance for the C40 cities for embracing this concept, the C40 cities, the global network of big metropolis for fighting against climate change. The C40 cities has embraced this concept in July 2020, after Milano and of course after the mayor of Paris. The global organizations, United Nations Habitat, has embraced this concept, in particular in the World Cities Report of 2022 and during the World Urban Forum in Katowice last year, and the other worldwide organization of mayors, United Cities, local and local government has embraced this concept in Daejeon in South Korea with the Pact for the Future, People, Planet, Government. The fifth university is as well today a specific European research line. We have launched in Europe the program Driving Urban Transitions for fostering the different teams in Europe for proposing different projects. And with UN Habitat, after receiving the Global Award Scroll of Honor, with C40 cities, with UCLG, we have created the Global Observatory of Sustainable Proximities. This is a very important because we opened a new dialogue on urban models and new practices at global scale. In reality, we have developed two twin concepts: the 50-minute city concept for developing a more multi-services, polycentric, and intensive, vibrant livability in compact zones, and the 30-minute territory for the same approach, more focused on middle and low density zones. If we wanted to put it in a nutshell, we could understand with this picture the importance for building a new urban and territorial narrative and to develop the new cities businesses model. We have accepted the unacceptable long daily commute, the single functions in buildings with these misused buildings, and we have accepted to lose the essential of social interactions. We have accepted to live in the different cities around the world in segmented, fractured, zone inequal cities. We have
Carlos, can you, because of the PowerPoint is presenting both slides, can you, we have the, can you open it just in one slide, because we have I think it's not in the presentation mode. Let me see. Because it's
oh yeah, because I have two screens.
Yeah,
okay.
If you can just
is okay or
not yet, sir.
Okay,
if you try to do it.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry, that's
and now
not yet, still waiting, but
is it okay or not?
Now it's great. Thank you, Carlos.
I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry.
I said that we have accepted that these three situation in cities for 7 decades after the Athens Charter, after the Le Corbusier paradigm with the new urbanism. And we wanted to propose a new trajectory, the 50-minute city, the 30-minute territory, the happy proximity in general. It's not a magic wand. This is a new paradigm for developing more a more massive mixity, social mixity, a functional mixity. I said that with the C40 cities, UN Habitat, UCLG, we have developed this initiative for fostering a lot of different projects around the world. Almost 3 years after launching this concept with the mayor of Paris for cities, we have developed around the world in the 5 continents lot of different initiatives with the different nicknames. 50-minute city in Paris, 20-minute territory in the Ile-de-France region, 10-minute city in Brussels, 20-minute neighborhood in Scotland, 20-minute neighborhood in Melbourne, vital neighborhood in Bogota, microcentric development in Buenos Aires, etc., etc. At the same time, as researchers and scientists, academics, we need to understand that this concept is a scientific contributions in a big picture under the at the beginning of the last century, the neighborhood units of the Terence Perry, the chrono-urbanisme en François Hacher, the new urbanisme, new pedestrianisme, the strong contribution of living cities by James Jacobs, the time geography with the Price Pritzker, Thorsten Agerstrom, the Price Pritzker, Aldo Rossi, etc. We are a lot of different thinkers and doers for proposing to change this paradigm. My friend, the Nobel Prize, Mohamed Yunus, wrote, published in 2010, a wonderful book, the Triple Zero, a world with a triple zero: zero carbon, zero poverty, zero exclusions. And I was inspired by this book with Mohamed Yunus for proposing this way in order to turning the page of Le Corbusier, Athens Charter, for reforming the zoning, for proposing more social affordability, for developing more social integration, for fighting against gentrification, for fighting against this segmentation segregation. My contribution in reality is focused on the convergence of three different scientific elements: the chrono-urbanism for proposing a new reason for living in the cities, the chronotopia for fighting against the single use of buildings and to optimize with the multi-purpose function of buildings, 1 square meters, multiple uses, each one of the new uses, new possible. And the third point, the topophilia for loving our places, for developing a new feel in the cities. With the Professor Yunus, we have proposed this way for creating more livable ecological cities, more viable economical cities, and more equitable, more inclusive social cities. We have developed this concept of the multi-services in a polycentric cities for having a more useful time. The question is to change for the monocentric and the concentrated activities for the polycentric cities, and at the same time to discuss on the useful time, to change for the a time totally reduced in the long commute for going from my home to my work, and to develop more individual and social time. This is the core of the model of the 15-minute city, of the 30-minute territory, of the nickname, the happy proximity. We have developed 6 essential functions, each one with a color: to live, to work, to supply, to care, to learn, and to enjoy. Each one of these functions has a color. We have proposed this concept of the social circularity based on the new high sociality, the new high social quality of life in a polycentric organization. Our idea was to mix the colors. With the Le Corbusier paradigm, we have separated the different social functions with the different color, with the long distances, with the lot of travels. And we have proposed this social circularity, and we have developed 3 new indicators: my personal and familial well-being, my social well-being with my neighbor and my work colleagues, and my ecological positive attitude, and the otherness. We have developed this rainbow of the high quality societal life. Instead of to have the color separated with the longer distances, we have proposed a polycentric organization, and each one of the different circles to mix at least 3 of the 6 essential functions. We have demonstrated that if you have the possibility to mix at least 3 of the 6 essential needs, we could reduce for 50% the daily long commute. The social circularity is based on this rainbow of the high quality social life. We have developed this matrix, the high quality societal living matrix, for proposing the optimization of the social function, the social mixity, and to optimize the different infrastructures for become the mixed uses and infrastructures. For finishing, we have developed at the same time a model for adapting the chrono-urbanismo with the different personas, the distances, the time for accessing to the different services is not the same for a teenager, for an elderly people, for a couple with children, or without with children. We have developed this customization for proposing different personas, different isocolon, and for that we have developed different tools. This is the proximity fresco. The proximity fresco, this is a creative workshop for customizing the chrono-urbanismo, the isocolon, in function of the typology of each one of the inhabitants. We have proposed the different circle of services, the daily services, the intermediate services, and the centralized services. With the digital platform, we have developed a lot of different models in the strong densities, the high density, the middle density, the low density, with the different kind of mobility, on foot, or by bike, by car. We have developed different averages. We have developed different models with the different configurations, single parent, young people. And we have proposed this kind of a scorecard. This is the concrete case in Buenos Aires, for example, with the 6 social functions, the average with the high quality societal life index. We have developed the neighborhood livability index, and we have developed the streethood livability index. Just in a few minutes, in a city as Paris, for example, we have developed the different new services. The most important point today is the vote in the Paris City Council of the new master plan for the city of Paris. The last time when we have voted a master plan was in 2000. In May 2023, we have voted a new master plan for the next 10, 15 years based on this concept: hyper proximities, urban identity, isocolon, low carbon neighborhood, etc. We have today a lot of implementation. This is the school for streets, for develop the new linear parks, for reducing the time of commute. We have developed the commercial property of the city of Paris for offering the different shops in proximity with the locations by the city of Paris. As you could speak of Milano, we have a lot of different cities around the world: Zurich, Busan, Buenos Aires. This is the mayor of Cleveland, Justin Bibb. He has launched the 50-minute city in Cleveland. In Buenos Aires, we have transformed, after the COVID, the microcentro of Buenos Aires for regenerating. In Mexico, we have voted a new law, the 1.5 kilometers for constraining promoters and real estate developers for offering in this radius less than 1.5 kilometers the different services for social housing. We are very proud of this development. This is a city, this is a district of the city of Mexico, Iztapalapa. 2 million of inhabitants. We have developed 18 new centralities for implementing the 50-minute city concept with a lot of different activities: social housing, educational activities, pedagogical, and urban agriculture, sport, etc. Guadalajara, the same situation. We have launched decentralized project in Africa. This is in the middle city, Sus. We have launched the new developed urban integrated plan. In Melbourne, the 20-minute cities territory. In Busan, the 20-minute city. In China, the 50-minute city community life circle. In Scotland, this is the framework in the totality of the Scotland territory, the 20 minutes neighborhood. In the region, in Ile-de-France region, this is not only Paris, the 20-minute Ile-de-France region. And in the very, very small ruralities. This is the case in the south of France, 5,000 inhabitants, Saint-Hilaire-de-Bredmas. This is a small rurality in Poland, Ezio, 15,000 inhabitants. I want to invite to join the Global Observatory of Sustainable Proximities with 140 cities, TLG, Smart City Power Congress in Barcelona, for federating the different initiatives, scientific program, the work based on indicators, and to launch different new initiatives. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos. I knew that it was really hard to resume in 10 minutes the amount of work amazing that you have been doing, but it was great. Thank you, Carlos. Now, Ezio, I would suggest that you can present in 10, 15 minutes, well, in the time that it's possible to show off also your amazing experience and learnings. Ezio, I think you have to unmute you, please. You have to unmute Ezio because it's muted. In the left side of the Zoom. Try to.
Now you listen me. Yes.
Now, yes, now I can hear. Yeah, great.
Okay. Share, and now I share. Okay.
Can you enlarge? Perfect.
Well,
okay.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, the one that I know and the one that I don't know. It's a privilege for me to speak after Carlos. Not because I highly respect his work, but also because he makes a lot of work for me. So for me, it's much easier now to intervene because, let's say, the very general story has been told. And now I can retell the story with some maybe different word and different sensitivity. And this is because I think maybe also between Carlos and me, it's not said that we share 100%, as is good and obvious, so at least there is debate. And also because maybe he is much more than me, a planner. I am not a planner, I am a designer. So our point of view on things can be a little bit different, but we can talk about this afterwards. What is really very important for me is to help to understand why this notion of proximity is important. And for some reason, I say that proximity is a word that is very strong and very rich. And the richness of a term depends from the context. So proximity always existed, and probably in other period was not so important because it was quite obvious. In the pre-modern society, the way of living was in proximity by definition. There was no other way of living. And therefore, probably there was not so much the need to talk and to understand the meaning of proximity. I suppose today, for some reasons that have been said, especially after the shift in the paradigm of city given by Le Corbusier and others, as Carlos said before, we desperately need to understand proximity. So I will answer to the question. And the first question is the title. Is if the proximity is the future of the city. And my answer is it can be. So even though everything that Carlos said is true, and also on my side, I could tell very nice stories about proximities, it's not the main trend. And in my view, we have to face a very important clash in between different ideas of a city. So I mean that in this moment on the ground, there are more than one idea of city, and the other idea of city, the one that are not the city of proximity, are very powerful. And unfortunately, as we see in many, so if we would talk also about other issues, we had in this moment to talk about a clash in between different positions. And this is true also for the city. So for me, the city of proximity is mainly a scenario. A scenario, for me at least, do not mean a model, means an idea that is not only a dream, but it's an idea that can be implemented. So a scenario is an idea that you can say, if we do like this and that, if we support this and that, it can happen. So for me, nowadays, I suppose maybe some decades ago, the idea of a city proximity is not a dream, it's a scenario. And given that it's a scenario, it can be done. But it asks for developing ideas, culture, new practices, etc. And also, I'm sure, a lot of political fight. And so why, for me, proximity is critical for the city? The most evident reasons has been already been said by Carlos. And I agree, there is motivation. If today the C40 system of cities is talking about the city of proximity or the city of 50 minutes or whatever, as a strategy for sustainability, is mainly to reduce the CO2 production and to reduce the mobility, and therefore also to reduce the waste of time of people. So this has been said, and if I don't stress this aspect, it's not because it's not important, probably it's the one that really drive whatever has been done until now, and Carlos was explaining. But in my view, there is also something else that I'm sure that Carlos shared this idea, and I think that is equally important, even though maybe less evident. So to tell the story, I had to make a step backward, and of course I have only to say titles because we have no time really to go in depth. But the first title is there is no sustainability without care. So after 30 years that we work on sustainability, we have found so many different strategy things, but the core for me is that we are unsustainable, both physically and socially, because we cannot find the capability to take care of each other in between human beings, and to take care of the native life, and therefore to take care of the environment. And what does it mean for us? Let's make another step. The second step that I've learned reading a beautiful book that is written by a lady that is Maria Puig de la Bella Casa, that is called Matter of Care. She teach us and she show us something that when it's said is evident, but it's not evident in the practice. That is, there is no care without proximity, or better, she says, care needs to be in touch. This does not mean that the system of care can also have a digital component, but the core of care. So when you are really giving something, we are really observing and taking your time to give attention to something, and at that moment you have to be in touch, Puig de la Bella Casa says. So we can say that there is no care without proximity. And we can say if our society has been called since several decades a careless society, this is mainly because something happened that our society became society of distance. We are society, we have used all our capability, our knowledge, our technology to try to convince us and to make us, for us possible to do things from producing toward organizing your family life, being in distance. And the creation of this distance as a kind of sub-effect, the one of reducing the possibility to care. And this is why we are careless, both in between us and in between us and the environment. Therefore, why is so important for the future of the city, the notion of proximity? Because if it is true what I said until now, there is no sustainable city without proximity. So there is the only way, the core of the philosophical, practical, it's a proximity, I have to say, it's interesting of proximity because it's a mixture of practice and philosophy. So if there is no proximity, you don't have any possibility to organize a sustainable city. And so we can give a different, but it's not different, a complementary definition of the city of proximity as a city where the systems of proximity, the proximity system are diversified and dense, exactly as Carlos was saying before. So if we create a dense and diversified system, it's not for sure there will be the possibility of care, because you cannot design care. Care is not designable, but you can design context that have to be dense and diversified that can create the conditions to make care relationship possible and probable. So what we can do, especially for us, designers and planners, this topic of proximity is so important, for me at least, because it is the way to create, because we can design the physical proximity. And if we design the physical proximity, we create the conditions that make the relational proximity possible. And the relational proximity is very near to care. And so we create the condition for care. So the second question is, what is the roadmap to make it happen? Of course, this is very complicated, very complex. There are so many different strategies. And but for me, at least, the key issue is how much we enrich and diversify the proximity system. So everybody that is thinking to develop something, for instance, in the city, but not only in the city, also in the countryside, should say at the end, have I enriched and diversified the proximity system or not? And this is a very simple, all the other criteria are important, but this is a very, not banal, it's very, very deep in reality, but relatively simple way to think what I've done. Because if we apply this kind of way of thinking, we will recognize how much everything has been done until now, included all the modern idea of city, has been pushing toward the desertified, a monological system. So if you go in the opposite side, it could appear simple to be said, but as also Carlos was saying, it's very, very complex. To give a kind of rule, a simple rule, what does it mean to enrich and diversify the proximity system? For me, there are two main actions that have to be done that are in some way independent, but they are linked one with the other one. The first one is, please try to distribute the services. Put all the services with their own physical touch point, because they need to have a physical touch point, nearer to the final user, nearer to the citizen, and bring them together. So integrate, as was also one of the topics said by Carlos before, these multiple services. So hubs where you can have many different activities near to the people. The more that you bring them near, the better it is. And at the same time, the services have not only to deliver some services or deliver and multiply a diversified quantity of services, but around the services, you have to help the creation of communities around the services. So we can say socialize. So the vision is the city of proximity, and the strategies are very diverse, are very situated, because they have to be very linked to the specificity of the place. But in my view, two main threads are, please bring the touch point near to the people and build some communities around the place. Just to give an idea, This is something that happened in Paris, I know, but I know that it happened also in Milano, it happens in Bologna, even more, it happens in Torino, etc., etc. We can have libraries that are by definition distributed on the territory, that are not only delivering books, but they are also creating hubs for reading, for culture. You can have schools that open their doors and the gardens and become social centers for educational issue, and not only. You can have, and we are trying to do it now in Italy, medical centers that become communities of care. So we can, the strategy could be to use the services that are already potentially distributed on the territory to distribute them even more equally, because nowadays they are diversity and this is not good. And around each one of these services, create a community. So this is for me, my main drive when I try to design something for regenerating the cities, or not only the city, also some villages in the countryside. What happened now? So to conclude, to conclude, the main obstacles and constraints, as I said before, there are, of course, there are bureaucracy, there are different culture, there are the people do not want to change, etc., etc. But there is a political issue. There are different deep political interests that are against our proposal. And just to summarize, I can put in two categories of our opposants, our enemy, if you want. One is the continuity of the city of modernity, so the city of distance, that there is an attempt to upgrade it. Very frequently call it smart city or smart and green city. Unfortunately, because the term can be stretched in this way, they say, okay, this city was not so effective by the environmental point of view, but with our technology, we can do it better. And this is still the mainstream. Everything that is talk about the car, the electric car, etc., is in this area. And afterward, there is another one that is very powerful and super dangerous. That is, let's do everything at home and from home. That is a kind of non-city, because this means to destroy totally the city. And it's very strong because it plays on the idea of comfort and accessibility. But at the same time, it reduced totally the city in a desert with only some slaves going up and down, bringing pizzas. So, of course, each one of these other two scenarios should be better described, but I hope to have given you an idea. This is very important because very often we can find them also mixed together. So you can go in a conference with people mixed together. They talk a little bit about proximity, and afterward, yes, but we have the smart city and also we can do everything from home. And so it's very important to try to clarify what are the different characteristics. And this is, for me, what we have to do, both practically doing things, making things happen, but also thinking to what we are doing and developing a new culture. Because if it is true that proximity always exists, we have to reinvent the proximity of the future. By this point of view, I didn't like so much the image of this conference because it gave an idea of something old. Proximity has to give an idea of something very updated, very new. It's the new way of imagining the city that is done using some good ideas from the past, but it's not anything as going back to the villages of the past, at least because the villages of the past cannot come back. And secondly, because somebody, including myself, I will never live in the village of the past. And yes, what is needed? Is needed a new generation of public services, as I said before, the services that are spread and generate the communities, a new wave of social innovation. That is movement from the bottom that try to push people and politicians to move in this direction. And I think that this is 15 minutes. And this is my book and a little bit advertisement, and thanks.
Thank you, Ezio. Thank you, Carlos. It was two amazing presentation. So we have Carlos. You were told that you have to leave at what time, because we have the 10 or 15 minutes in the beginning that we lost. Can we stay here more or less 20 minutes? Can you have this time or not, Carlos? Yeah. Okay. And Ezio, for you, it's okay. Great. Thank you. So we have 20 minutes to debate. So I have here some questions, but I think because we don't have so much time, Sara and Fernando, do you want to select one or two questions from the audience? Because we have here a lot of people waiting to contribute to the debate. So Sara, please, can you raise the first question, please?
Fernando will ask. Fernando is the first.
Fernando.
Okay, it says the questions were great and they become greater after this. There are a lot of comments and some of them are about this diversity, about how can we combine or differentiate what to do in central place cities, and when we have most people living outside central urban areas. It's about urban sprawl, about low density, and this is one question. Of course, there was some elements, very rich elements in both communications that tackled the issue. But for instance, in Carlos Moreno, we saw some models, but we could not see some results of what was really achieved. And at the same time, and just to finish, there is another block about politicians, political will, and how to convince, how to mobilize, what to do to mobilize politicians, to bring them to have a more powerful, I don't know, a more intelligent, whatever, about this I don't know how to call it, but okay, between social innovation, political innovation, and what we heard from Ezio, and a more I don't know, specific, more readable conclusions from this study between central places and urban sprawl and low density could be good to have some words. I don't know if Sarah wants to add one question more, and then
it's great.
It's okay. Sorry.
In the second round. Okay, Carlos and Ezio, comment on these issues of Fernando. Carlos, can you begin? Okay, great.
Okay, do you want? Thank you, Ezio, for your presentation. Very, very great, powerful. Thank you so much. Yes, for these different questions, I will inverse the question of politicians. I am a scientist, a professor at Sorbonne University. We have a very powerful team for developing our research in this topic for several years. And in reality, we have started in 2010 for developing a model based on this proximity, to modelize the social circularity, to identify the different social functions, to develop this new chrono-urbanism or chronotopia, topophilia, etc., etc. As a scientist, we had a lot of chance because the city of Paris, after the COP21 in 2015, of course, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, at this time was the president chairwoman of the C40 cities. And in parallel of the COP21 in Paris, we hosted the summit of mayors, 1,000 mayors for climate in 2015. When I proposed this idea of reducing long distances to increase the services in proximity, to optimize the buildings for developing the multi-purpose functions, to be more sensitive to real sustainability in cities, not only as a lot of technical solution for the captation of CO2, but to transform the daily lifestyle, the daily work style. In this moment, a lot of politicians said the research of Professor Moreno is very interesting, but this is an utopia, because it will be impossible to live differently. The normality is the long distances, the normality is the city forecast. We could reduce the traffic jams for transforming the diesel car for electrical cars, etc. The mayor of Paris, I am Parisian, said, I wanted to explore this way by this team of researchers. And I had a chance for having 3 different districts in Paris for exploring the concept in face to the concrete real life. We have explored during 3 years this concept for experiencing this ontologic model, this chrono-urbanism, this chronotopia, the new isochrons to traffic. And the mayor of Paris, at the end of 2019, said to me, Carlos, I am convinced that this is the new way for proposing another different program for fighting against climate change, with at the same time to reduce the low carbon emissions, to increase the local economy, the local employment, the shorter circuits, to develop more medical services, more educational and pedagogical activities, and to explore for the multi-use of the public space. The mayor of Paris has embraced this concept in 2018. She proposed this concept at the beginning of 2020 for her electoral campaign in February. And in March, we had the COVID-19. The COVID-19 with the lockdown was the very, very dramatic situation. A lot of mayors have decided at the same time to explore the 50-minute city, and the C40 cities has embraced this concept for the cities. My experience 3 years after is that a lot of mayors around the world in reality are totally not necessarily convinced, but totally open for exploring this new paradigm for switching from the former model based on the lot of car-centric car dependency towards another model with this sustainability based on proximity, multi-services, polycentric city, etc. And today, we have the possibility for transforming this concept into a new local public policy. And we have at the same time the different sectors of the economic for the economic activities for switching. In Paris, we had a lot of different real estate developers for switching from the single functions of the, for example, the biggest corporate district in Europe, La Défense, for switching towards the multi-purpose users, the mixed users. And today we have this capability for attracting with this model the different economical sectors and the citizen dwellers and the association. The question of the outskirts, the question of the banlieue, the case in Paris, the cases of the suburbs is the real great question. We have obtained in the region of Paris for 10 million inhabitants, that the president of the Ile-de-France region will be implement this model for the totality of 10 million of inhabitants, for creating 23 new centralities and 120 new polarities. This was, for us in Paris, a very great news, because until now, the mayor of Paris is only the mayor of the small Paris, 120 square kilometers for 2.2 billion of inhabitants. The mayor of Paris doesn't have the authority for the banlieue, because we have the other different mayors. It is more complicated. Now, the president of the Ile-de-France region has voted the strategic program for developing this polycentric region. And in this case, we will transform as well, not only the center of Paris, but we will transform the different communes, the different outskirts, the different suburbs in Paris. At the same time, this is not a magic wand. This is a long path. This is a long journey. We need to break with 7 decades of the Le Corbusier city, car-centric city, for going towards a new different model to develop the new business model in cities, for developing more local employment, local activities, for decentralizing. And we need to fight against this monocentric dependency. But at the same time, I am optimistic, because this is the global movement, and today, the impact of the global warming, in reality, we don't have a choice.
Carlos, thank you very much. Before Ezio to give you the word, I will ask Sarah, can you complement any questions that eventually could be more related with the presentation of Ezio? Sarah, one question.
Two short questions that are related. How to prevent in some way, or to avoid the risk of social inequality and socioeconomic segregation. And if you have been establishing the links of the impacts of the concept of proximity to health, or to avoiding mass tourism or other global problems that we have. In short, also how to use the proximity to care for what is next to us, and also to care for global commons. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question or two questions?
Two questions.
Well, actually, two.
The first one was proximity and the segregation.
Segregation, yes. And then impact in health, if you can tell us if you have been studying that.
Yeah.
And the impact in the global commons that we share, like climate stability.
Okay. Well, I can work a little bit on what Carlos said, because also the first two questions are something that I would like to comment. And just to say that we are not twin brothers, there is a little bit of difference in between when we talk. And we would need a more specialized discussion to see the difference, because he talked about models, I talk about scenarios. And it's a little bit a different approach that it's not so important now to go. But for me, the scenario, I use scenario because I see the need of being extremely flexible. So for me, there is a point we know, some of us, we are talking about proximity, know that we want to change that paradigm that gives some very clear direction by a certain point of view. And afterward, the case by case, the situation could be so diverse. So this is very important when we deal with a policymaker, because one thing is to say, okay, this is a model, you have to apply this model. Another thing is to say, okay, look, there is a different way to look into the city. And afterward, let's see what we can do step by step, moment by moment, but in a radical way. So it's not only adjusting the system of before, it's it could be an oxymoron, but it's a local radicalism. So you can make some choice that are locally radically different from the previous model because they move in a different direction. And as I said before at the beginning, unfortunately, I am optimistic by profession, but in this moment, I think everybody agree that we cannot be so optimistic in general, but we can have beautiful stories to say. The one that Carlo was saying about Paris is a beautiful story, and probably has many others. As I can tell beautiful stories that could be diverse in some way, even though they move toward some idea of proximity. Because if we take the best example that I know in Italy, there are many examples, that is Bologna, for instance. For sure, it's a place that where there have been so many choices done in the spirit of move toward this kind of proximity and care idea, that each one of them had followed different opportunities, a different possibility to put together different groups of stakeholders, etc., etc. So the relationship with the policymaker, how to convince the policymaker, is, in my view, done. It happened because now many cities are talking about city of 15 minutes or city of proximity. We have to see how, if they are discussing well or not, but they are discussing where it was not happening before. In some way, the notion about the idea of proximity, the notion of the quality of the pedonal way of considering the city, start as a critic to the modernity, start from James Jacobs. So 50 years, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, now, no, 70, no, 60. But it remains a small thing. Now, for some reason, because of COVID, because the disaster generated by this idea of modern city are so evident, because the climate catastrophe, the topic changed. So we can say that in any case, thanks to Carlos and thanks to many others, the notion about proximity became a new paradigm, at least a new word that is used. Afterward, as always happened with a politician, you can use the word and not to really think what is the meaning. And this is what happened in Italy, not in Bologna, in my view, but in many other places. So there is a few mayors in Italy that have been elected in the last 2 years that had not some word about, oh, we will do the city of 15 minutes or the city of proximity. The problem is if they understand what they are saying, because as you can imagine, I think that in Portugal will be the same. There are some Italian cities that are very near to be the center of the city, at least the city of proximity, if you intend that they have everything as there is still the remaining of a pre-modern city and the people can enjoy it. So if you imagine that to apply the strategy of the city of proximity where the city of proximity already is there, that normally is the center of the city, you are totally wrong. The problem is that it's a right of everybody to the city of proximity. And so you have to challenge yourself when you say, oh, we will have in our program the city of proximity, not in the center, but not where it's already there, but where it's not there. And what does it mean? And therefore, the notion about bringing services, taking the touch point of the services near to the people means not where they already are, but where these kind of services are not, and they are being desertified in some way. So on one way, we can be happy because this term is spreading. On the other hand, as every word that becomes very, in some way, interesting, fashionable, it can be stretched, it can be reversed in something that is the contrary of what was in the intention. And therefore, this is what not so much me or Carlos maybe has been very good in convincing her mayor, Lady Mayor, but it's not only me or Carlos, it's the social innovation. So in my view, we are talking about all this issue because there have been at least 20 years of urban social innovation that practically was doing something that was very coherent with the idea of proximity. And therefore, in some way, some politicians started to recognize that there is a possibility to establish a relationships in between the institution and these people. And we have around the world, and also in Italy, some good example all this kind of interaction, positive interaction in between social innovation, institutional innovation. I name only one that is very famous in Italy. It's called Patti di Collaborazione, Pacto Collaboration with the Citizen, that started in Bologna and now spread in many other places. That is a way to give an institutional frame to all the initiatives that the people can do to regenerate, to auto-organize themselves, to regenerate the city. And this has been seen, and I see as a very good example of something that is totally coherent with the idea of proximity. So moving very quickly to the last two questions, for me, when I, okay, poverty and to be the fragile groups in the city, this is really my main issue in this moment. And it's a very delicate one, because as I said before, there are many mayors that are talking about proximity, blah, 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 but they do it where it's easy to be done and not where it's difficult. And also the social innovation that I like so much normally happen in the place where there are people that have time to organize themselves to make things happen. So in some way we say in Italy, but not only, the social innovation risk to be limited to those that have the time and the energy and the possibility of attention to do it, but the very poor not. So in my view, the idea of the city of proximity is also the idea of creating conditions in which also the poor people can in some way be involved, can generate communities, can generate way to help each other. Because of course we need that the state do something, but we also need to rebuild the community because the people are poor. Also because they are in a socially poor place. And so the city of proximity is also the city that help support people in regenerating the communities, also in the place in which there are the majority of people is fragile, poor, and in some way in need. And therefore, for me now, I have to finish, but if you take seriously the notion of a city of proximity, it is also a tool to develop policies that try to promote the reduction of disequality inside the society. Even this has something to do with the local, with the global, I'd say only one word. Yes, of course, because if all of us do something like this, if all the cities that was named by Carlos before and many others are working in this direction, we are changing not only the global production of CO2, and so we are doing a politics, but we are changing also the mentalities. And so in the same way that the social innovation generated new ideas in some politicians and something is starting to change in the vision of what is welfare or what is a city or what is the possibility for the society at the local scale, this can happen also at the global scale. And in some ways there could be a positive rethinking of globalization that now is out from the possibility of this discussion. But of course, if we take seriously this idea we imagine to spread, there is also a different idea of what is the meaning of globalization.
So thank you very much, Ezio and Carlos. It was really wonderful to listen to you and to the answers that you gave to these questions. So we knew that 1 hour and a quarter, it would not be enough to debate all the themes that we want, but nevertheless, I think this was very, very rich for all of us. Fernando and Sara, so I would like to thank you. Fernando, do you want to end with some comments? This is an organization of the Urban and Regional Master of the University of Aveiro.
Just thank you so much. I have no comments. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind about what you said, about the differences, about the complementarity of your answers, your comments. Just to thank you and say to people, to everyone who eventually is interested in coming to our master, where we intend to discuss this and other questions about cities, about resilience, about proximity, and so on, that you are very welcome. We'll have next week is the right time to apply to the Master of Regional and Urban Planning. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody. And I hope we could find other places and time to discuss this, to have new debates about these questions. Thank you very much.
And for sure we will have. So thank you, Ezio. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you. Hi, Ezio.
I see you.
Bye-bye.
See you.
See you
Soon.
next
Thank you very
time.
much.
Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you.
Have a good weekend.
And you too, Carlos.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. For you too.
Bye-bye.
both.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Obrigado a todos também por terem estado.
Obrigado. Obrigado. Obrigado.
Obrigada a todos e pela organização também, pelo convite.
Nada. Obrigado, Sandra, também. Um abraço para ti. Bye-bye, Michael.
You, Abel.
Agora podíamos abrir um outro debate, não era? Agora fazíamos a nossa...
É verdade, é verdade.
Não era, Abel? Agora fazíamos o nosso...
Pois, muitos parabéns. Foi pena não termos conseguido ver ainda melhor o que os distingue.
Mas viu. Ok, tudo bem.
Ok, então mas abrimos um novo debate em breve. Isto agora já para fechar aqui aqui a gravação.
Já veio o Márcio Paulinho também, né? Também.